Because I've seen some power of sales on the MLS, and every listing looked like a hoarder house almost.
And I was going to say, they're also hoarders. The reason why is because when you have nothing and you're in scarcity, you're going to hold on to everything you have.
Yeah.
Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as we sit around the table with my friends and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
Guys, welcome to another edition of Broadview Table Talks. Today we got Neil joining us, and we got Michael, and I'm Ken, and we are here, real estate brokers in Toronto. And we're talking about, it's a tough time right now, going through a recession. There's a lot of layoffs going on. You hear in the banks. Even the banks are getting ready for, they call loan loss provisions, meaning that they're provisioning some money or putting aside some money for losses on their books. And where do these losses come from? Failed mortgages, defaults. And what happens to these houses that get defaulted on? Obviously, everybody thinks, oh, it's a good deal. I want to go buy one of these, right?
Yeah.
So these are called power of sales. And everybody's asking for a power of sale. So Neil came up with an interesting topic today. And what was that?
So we've seen a lot of power of sales, and we just want to kind of talk about why power of sales aren't really that great of a deal.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, right? You might think that power sales, you're going to get the best deal ever because somebody's lost a shirt. And on one side, somebody's lost a shirt, but the other side, someone's winning.
Yeah.
A really good deal.
Like, what's that saying? Somebody's loss is my gain?
Yeah. So the reason why, first of all, is because the lenders have a duty to recoup the most amount of money possible. So why don't I just explain? Do you guys know how power sale works?
Well, you know what? Like I've learned it, but I've learned very surface level stuff.
Yeah, so, how does it actually work in the real world?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 6 steps in it that one of my private lenders sent me. And he said basically, first of all, number 1, you get a demand letter. So if you're late on payments, call it 1 or 2 months, then all of a sudden you get a letter demanding payment to be received, right? Then after that, you'll get a statement of claims. So that means you owe this much legal fees, and you have to pay this much to bring it back to normal. And then at the end, you have the actual power of sale that actually happens, which includes a judgment from the courts, and then you get a writ of possession, meaning that they have the lender has the right to possess the property, and then the sheriff will come and evict you. And it's pretty sad. One of my first transactions a long time ago, it was really sad. I saw somebody get evicted out of their homes, and everything's still inside. Everything's locked. You see a sign on the window, on the door, saying that the power sale process has begun. And the previous owners have like a 3-hour window to go there and grab their stuff, and whatever they can grab, they can grab.
And then what is that 3-hour window? So like if they don't make it, like let's say I leave a TV in there, is it theirs?
It gets either, I don't remember what happens. I think it gets disposed of. I don't remember exactly what happens.
Okay. I do have a question though for all those steps. How much time elapses throughout all of those steps to actually getting your house removed?
That's a very good question. So before I get into that, the whole process, the lender has a duty to recoup the most amount of possible. They can't do like extreme fees. They charge a lot. The lawyer fees are expensive, but they can't go way over, and they can't sell it way under the price. They have a duty to recoup the most amount of money possible. Otherwise, the borrower can come back and sue them and say this wasn't fair.
Well, it's also in their best interest to have the borrower actually make good on their original loan terms, because it actually costs money to go through this process.
Well, not really, because yes and no. So typically they would lend you up to 80% loan to value, and the reason why is they leave 20% as a lender would leave that as a buffer for extra fees, market fluctuations, things like that. Right. Sometimes they leave 25%, so you can only lend you up to 75%, or even less now in times like this, even 65%. But ultimately, let's just say 20%. That leftover, it should be enough to cover any kind of legal fees, selling costs, and any kind of variances in prices.
Okay.
Right? So as a lender, if I lend you 80%, or if somebody lent 80%, and they're not good on it, then all they can collect back is 80%.
Right.
If there's, say, like 12% remaining, and the whole process costs 8% to sell it, then that 12% goes back to the original owner, the previous owner. So they have a duty to not cheat and mislead, or I don't know what the actual wording is, but they can't force the buyer or the previous seller to say like, you're going to lose your shirt and more, and we're going to steal it from you, basically. So they have a duty to do that. And if the borrower doesn't contest the fees to answer your question, by the way, Neil.
Yeah.
If the borrower doesn't contest the fees amount and they're not holding it up in court because there's a process for that, the whole process can take about 6 to 12 months.
Okay.
From the day you missed your first payment.
Okay.
So the reason why I don't find that power sales are always the best deals is because that duty that you have to put on the open market, you have to show to the judges if the case they were going to get sued or whatever, that they tried their best and they put it on the open market and there was a fair competitive process.
Which means that they would have had an agent work on it?
There isn't always an agent, listing it, but that means that they had to put it on the MLS. Right? And
they have to take professional photos.
Yeah, they have to, well, not professional, but like, how do you argue that, right? But they have to actually try their best to do a proper job selling it, right? To get the most amount of money possible.
Okay.
Again, the lender only cares about their portion that they lent out. It could be 80% on the first loan, or it could be, the balance to 80% on the second loan. That's very different than a foreclosure. So a foreclosure, the difference is that the lender would actually take the property back, and then they can do whatever they want with it, right? So that's not typical in Ontario, in Canada at least, Ontario for sure. Typically, it's power sales. So I have the power to sell it, the property. That's what it means.
Right.
And that's why it's not the best deal.
Okay. But so it's why, or the condition of these houses that you're seeing, is that also like
that is a good point? Why? Thank you for bringing that up. I completely forgot about it. Another reason why it's not going to be a good deal is because typically if the borrower or the owner, I don't know what you call that, the owner, the previous person who owned it?
Yeah.
Let's call them the owner. If the owner isn't making their payments, then chances are they're neglecting a lot of the maintenance in the house as well too.
Right, they're not paying to fix things. They're not actually regularly spending the money that a house needs.
Right, they're not keeping up with the maintenance.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, because I've seen some power sales on the MLS, and every listing looked like a hoarder house almost.
And I was going to say, they're also hoarders. The reason why is because when you have nothing and you're in scarcity, you're going to hold on to everything you have.
Yeah.
So that's why typically they become hoarders. They're not like decluttered. They're not like, they usually just kind of have everything there. So the place is just disgusting. It's not clean. It smells like crap. It doesn't show well. It's probably rotting away. There's probably mold, and it's just nasty if you've ever seen a power sale.
Yeah, so it sounds like the owner is usually down to their luck and they're in this situation. And it's a long period of time that they're in that place in this situation, which means that the house is in worse condition because it's in that state in an extended period of time, right?
Correct.
Exactly that. So it's like, is it really a good deal if you buy it and you have to do all these upgrades?
Well, yeah, it doesn't show well. It needs a lot of work, right? It's on the open market, so anybody can actually buy it. And then there's competition, like supply and demand competitions as well too, right? Just market forces just take over. So that'll kind of, in theory, equalize the price. And then I guess the other thing is there's situations where it's not always owner occupied that gets foreclosed on, right?
Could be tenant occupied.
Investment properties where they're tenant occupied also get foreclosed on. Now the tenant could live normally and you wouldn't even know as a tenant that this is happening, perhaps, right? And it could be the cleanest tenant ever. They take care of the place. They don't know. It's just that the landlord couldn't pay the bills, couldn't make ends meet because maybe it was cash flow negative in current times like today. And they had the power sale foreclosures as well too. Power sale proceedings. And what they actually have to do is the tenants, they would, after they give notice, that they would have to tell the tenants that we're taking your rents. Basically, you have to sign the rents over to the lender, the person doing the power sale.
Makes sense.
Right? So in cases like that, it could show well. It's just, again, the same thing. It's going to be on the open market.
Which means that the bank's looking for their 80%, which means it's not that competitive against other properties.
I mean, like a 20% discount is a pretty good deal. All right. So if you put something out there at a 20% discount, you're going to see a bidding war.
You're going to see exactly which drives it back up.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Like if you search it up, power of sale, POW, however you search on MLS, you're only going to see a handful of listings. So
last time I checked it, I think it was yesterday, there's 170 listings in all of Ontario.
All of Ontario.
All of Ontario.
So it's like,
including commercial deals.
Yeah. If you're trying to find a bargain, everybody else is trying to do the same thing.
Right.
So exactly as Michael said, the price is going to go up anyway.
Yeah, like you're letting the free hand of the market determine the price, which is where it balances out.
Correct.
So again, it always goes back to, is it even worth it?
Now, where you will find a good deal if you're a buyer looking for a deal smelling blood in the waters, things like that, is an assignment sale. right? A condo that
Yes.
somebody purchased 4 or 5 years ago, it's coming up for closing like soon, and they're kind of like the kind of trouble.
And we're seeing a lot of those right now.
There's a WhatsApp or Facebook group chat,
Facebook.
yeah, that says selling at a loss. Like that's the chat.
Yeah.
Willing to give up deposits, selling at a loss. Like
Yeah.
so they just put the deals. up there.
Motivated seller.
So
Well, it's actually literally it says, I gotta find the name for you, but it actually says something along the lines of the sellers are losing their deposit or something. That's the name of the chat.
And they actually type in how much they're losing just to make it sound like a really,
Right,
really
but then
good
there's
deal.
other agents that go in there and just put on normal assignment deals. Like,
Yeah.
oh, get out of here, man.
Yeah, yeah.
question though. So why assignment sales compared to like power of sale? Why is that one better?
Better?
It's
Or like why is
unoccupied
that a
for
good
one.
deal? Like is there no such thing as a power of sale for like pre-con projects? You know what I
It's called
mean?
a default.
Oh, okay.
But then the default, the developer will take it back and then resell it at a market price.
I see.
So the reason why assignment sales are better deals than power sales, because power sales are properties that already exist. Assignment sales are like
Brand new
a condo
properties.
hasn't been formed or the property
Yeah.
hasn't been built yet even.
Yeah.
And it's just paper gains. Right?
Okay.
So because you saw how crazy the market went over the past few years because money was free, right? Let's just say you buy something for $500,000 and it goes up to $700,000. That extra $200,000 gain, that could be potentially wiped out. And the
Right.
seller could be like, oh, well, or not the seller, the signor could be like, it's better than getting sued. So
Yeah.
here, take it.
Oh,
Right? So all of a sudden you're up $200,000, assuming that the market value is at $700,000
Yeah.
or even higher, right?
Yeah.
But there's situations where the market value doesn't actually meet that, the purchase prices. So there's situations where that is. And on top of that, if you bought a $500,000 property, maybe you put $100,000 into it over the past 4 years, right? So really the equity is from $400,000 to $700,000. So now you have $300,000 to play with, right? So if you're not going to sell it at, you're not going to be able to. No one wants to pay market value for it because they can just go buy a resale market, that a property that they can see. You can see what it's like. It's built. It's not a construction war zone. There's no it's just existing, right? And you see the views and everything like that. Whereas you see it on paper, you're not so excited to see it on paper.
Right.
Because most people buy pre-construction because they have the time horizon. So they'll walk into a sales office, put their fresh deposits down, take their time to scale up to 20% or 15% or whatever it is, the deposit structure,
Right.
versus coming there, paying your 20%, paying the profit, paying the development levies all up front. And that could be very costly.
Yeah.
Now, if there's a situation where the seller or the assignor is willing to take a haircut and not have to have the liability of closing, and they're willing to give away all that equity and perhaps even some of their deposits or all of their deposits, or even potentially pay somebody to take it so they're not sued. It's not funny, but it's sad. Actually,
my
that
God.
happens.
It's sad. And it's happening.
It's happening.
Oh my God.
Right? So like that one we saw the other day.
Yep.
Same thing. That's sold, by the way.
Yeah.
I think it's sold. I was talking to the guy who sold it. Anyway, so that is a perfect example of why you can get a better deal on assignment as opposed to power sale.
Yeah.
it's actually ruthless aggression over there.
Yeah. Well, it's just by the nature of it that I think the assignment buyer market is a lot smaller than the resale market. That's probably the better answer as to why. Now, if you're looking for a deal in Ontario and Toronto, GTA, Treb,
Stick to that, yeah.
stick with Treb. First of all, it's expensive, no matter what. Like Toronto is crazy expensive.
Compared to others, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be expensive. But like we're a wonderful city and et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to say why you should buy in Toronto. But let's say you assume you want to buy in Toronto, you want to find a good deal in Toronto. The good deals right now are assignments, I think. They're not power sales because it's just like any other resale market, except it's disadvantaged, most likely disadvantaged because of the lack of maintenance, the deferred maintenance, things like that. There's going to be other competitive forces, everybody else out there looking to buy as well that you're competing with. And it probably just doesn't show well. It probably takes a lot of money to bring it back up.
So should you not do it at all? Like, do we have tips on like how to kind of navigate through that water?
You know, a lot of people actually ask me anyway, show me some power sales. How about power sales? I hear power sales are a good deal. Well, this is why we're making this today, by the way. It's because it's not that good of a deal. It's like if you come across a resale listing that just meets. Oh, the other thing I should say is that if you're a buyer out there and you're looking for a power sale property, out of the 170 properties that are listed right now, or maybe more or less today, what are the chances that it's going to meet your buy box? That's going to meet your criteria. I want a townhouse in Markham, or I want a semi-detached in Midtown, or I want a detached house in downtown Toronto, or something like that, right? Like, what are the chances that you're going to find a power sale that meets that on your street, in the school zone that you want, in the condition that you want,
You're right.
in the driveway with the number of bedrooms, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You're going to see power sales in like Penetang or something. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna see things out like in the
offense
middle of
to
nowhere. You know what I mean? Well, yeah.
For commercial and for residential, it's 170 across all of Ontario is not much.
That's not a lot.
No.
If you figure we have 6 million people here, 170 homes, that's not a lot of homes. And in all of Treb, I think we're at a down point right now, but we're around just under 5,000 listings, called 4,000 listings, right? And that's 170 out of 4,000. So that's like, I don't know, I think I did the calculation last time, it was like 1 or 3%, something like that. Yeah. And in a good market, in a super hot market, it's up to like 15,000 homes. The highest we've seen was like 13 or 14,000 homes, something like that, at any given month. Right? That sell. Listings are a lot more. So it's like a very small fraction of the market. Tiny. So if you're trying to match what you're looking for, I don't think power sale is the way to go. I think if you just so happen to come across power sale and it's just perfect and it's got the lot size that you want or the condo or whatever, the view that you need and would like, and it just so happens to be it, that's great. But I wouldn't say don't spin your gears trying to look for a power sale.
Yeah, I'd say it's more of an opportunity rather than a deal. Because if you happen to find a good power sale, that's a good opportunity. But I wouldn't spend my time looking for one.
Specifically, yeah, I see.
Another good way to potentially buy a power sale. I don't know how you're going to do this because it's not a good strategy. In other words, because it's going to be a very narrow niche of properties out there that you're going to find is that you save somebody from a power sale. So it's kind of like an assignment. So before it goes to the actual proceeding of the writ of possession and you lose the seller loses access to the property, you might have an in with your lender or you might have an in with like a lawyer or somebody who's going through the situation. You might hear of something from a friend or even that person altogether.
Right.
And you're there just to bail them out. So say, again, let's use the 500,000 example. For example, they have a home for 500,000 and they're going to be in default and they can't pay it. So maybe you offer them, I don't know, 600 if it's worth 700, right?
Right.
You offer them a certain amount of money. They still get a profit. They get to walk away, and now you get the house. So you buy it basically off market, in other words.
Does that happen often?
It can, well, see, the problem is that you don't know who is going through these issues.
Right. And I don't know if a lender would have a database of people that they're familiar with. Plus, we have so many mortgage lenders, too.
The reason why that happens is because if you're dealing with a lender and you give them a lot of business, you're like, hey, why don't you give me business? Well, that mortgage broker or lender is dealing with thousands or hundreds of real estate brokers.
Right.
So, and they only have a couple of power sales, maybe.
Yeah.
Why would they give it just to you? Like, well, the chances of giving it to you is probably smaller, like compared to all their entire client base.
No, of course.
Right. So that's why it's a little bit difficult. And I would say that, I don't know. It just,
that would seem like a deal that's very, very rare.
It's more rare than it's happening more, yes, but it's still rare.
Rare.
As the overall percentage of sales that are happening.
And difficult to find.
Correct. Yeah. So if you look at the CMHC website, you'll see the number of power sale situations that have happened, and I think it's like less than 1%. It's like 0.2 something percent. Yep. Now, by the time that CMHC gets that data, it's already 6 months into the process, if not longer. So the actual numbers that you see there are going to be low, but I think in today's market, the real time, we're seeing more transactions happening. So if there's 170 now, I think in the past we might have had like 60. Let's just say. Okay, so that's one issue. The other thing I was going to say, if you're a seller going under trouble, you're not going to be able to make your bills and pay your bills, you put it on the market and you sell your home, right? Yep. And you try to get out of that situation before the lender forces you to sell it,
right?
The bank or whatever forces you to sell it. So they have it on the market. Now, what happens if they actually can't sell it at the price they want? Maybe they're too greedy. Maybe they want too much money. And all the meanwhile, the lender, now they miss a payment. It's still in the market because it's priced too high or it's not priced to sell. And then the lender does a power sale process. Now, all of a sudden, you have two listings, right?
Can you have two listings at the same time?
Technically, no. I mean,
no.
Because
no.
So this is actually a question I had today. Or not today. It was last week. So if you have it listed as the actual seller, and the lender, and goes to power sale, the lender takes the property back, meaning it has the writ of possession. The sheriff's there to evict them.
Yeah.
Now the seller doesn't have possession of the property anymore.
Right.
And I should have said this in the beginning. At any given time until the actual property closes. So say that it's on power sale, and another buyer B, comes in and puts an offer in APS to buy it, and they're about to close tomorrow. But the original seller found somebody to bail them out. Now this deal is null and void.
Really?
Oh, wow.
But the
That
bank
doesn't
is,
complete.
but the
They
bank,
can redeem. It's called redemption. So the seller, the owner, can redeem, make the lender whole, pay their 80% out or whatever they have of it. They pay whatever they're owing, pay the taxes, pay the fees, and then it's now theirs. And however got their money, maybe they borrowed from friends, family, whatever. Maybe they had another loan or another property somewhere. They can actually redeem it and take that property back. So that other buyer's out. So that's a risk of buying a power sale, by the way.
That's actually really good to know.
I should mention that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, okay, in the situation where you as an agent have a listing, they go default, now they're in power sale, the writ of possession has been given, the sheriff's kicked them out, the lender now puts it on the market. Technically, I guess you could still have the listing. It's just that, at least in Toronto Real Estate Board, Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, you can't have a listing if it's not available for showings and offers, if it's not immediately available for showings and offers. So technically, the original seller doesn't have access to the property anymore.
Right.
The keys don't work. They've already changed the locks.
Yeah.
So technically, you shouldn't have that listing.
Right.
But they might want to do that in order to save themselves from going through the foreclosure process. But essentially, if you're going through the foreclosure process, you got to trust that whoever the realtor they're working with, the lender's working with, is trying to get market value anyway, or close to it. That it's going to be the same as whether your realtor sells it or the other realtor sells it.
Right.
Market value is still market value. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's a bit of certain degree for the price and stuff like that. It doesn't exactly always match like a stock or something like that. There's not so much price discovery, but ultimately, they're going to maximize the amount of money they recoup, whatever the market can bear at that time, and then the original seller gets the balance back, if any.
Right.
So technically, there shouldn't be two listings.
Okay.
And there shouldn't be a need for it.
There shouldn't be a need for two listings, in other words, yes. And yes, I get it. It's sour grapes for the listing agent who lost their listing through no fault of their own.
Yeah.
So it's careful if you're selling as an agent towards selling a power sale property for the original seller, not for the lender.
Interesting. I'm kind of wondering if that one listing that we're competing against in the Canary District was trying to avoid a power sale situation.
I don't know what happened there. Sorry.
The other townhouse that sold for $250,000 to $350,000.
Oh, you can't say that, man. Like, everybody has their own reasons for selling.
I'm just curious.
You can't say that. Like, first of all, that was just for context. We have a listing right now, and there was another listing that sold for a lot lower than what should have sold for.
Right.
But it didn't say it was power of sale. It was just a seller sold.
No, I'm just curious if they were trying to avoid a power of sale.
I mean, it could be, but you can say it for anybody willing to sell right now. Why are they selling at market lows? Right? As per our last video, as you know, there's 6 primary motivators of why people sell or transact in real estate. And it could be any of those transactions or any of those reasons. And debt is one of the 6 reasons.
Yeah.
Right? But it could be the financial reasons. Maybe that they're selling so that they can put in another investment they have coming up. Maybe a pre-construction condo is closing, and they're just going to, the equity's already there. I already made, sure, I didn't make $500,000. This is the loss aversion thing, right? Like this principle of, it went up to $500,000 profit, and now it's down to $300,000 profit. So you feel like you lost $200,000 in profit. But that's not the case. You never had the $500,000. You never realized the gain.
No.
So maybe some people are smart and they realize that, you know what, I'm still walking away with $300,000 profit. Yeah. That'd be good. I have this other obligation that I got to pay for.
Yeah.
Or this
so
other
I'm still coming out ahead, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. Because there's other opportunities out there.
Yeah.
Speaking of opportunities, just to wrap things up here, for buyers who are looking for a power sale, what's the good news for them, like in this market right now? Like, is it still opportunities for them outside of power sales?
Yeah, there's more. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, there are deals that you get. There's situations where you could get a good deal in a power sale situation. Right, or even a pre-power sale situation, right? Because ultimately, it's a distressed seller, right? But in a market like Toronto, there's so much competition, there's so many buyers, there's so much population that if you don't buy it, someone else is going to most likely buy it. But it's not that efficient. Like, you still have maybe a couple hours or a couple days or whatever to sneak in there before somebody else gets it.
Yeah.
Right? So there could be an option to be able to get a really good deal as a buyer in a power sale situation. But I'm just saying, my strategy, I don't think if I'm a buyer, if I'm in the market right now to buy, I wouldn't specifically only focus on power sales.
Right.
I wouldn't be deal hunting. I'm not a deal hunter like that. You know what I mean? I'm looking for something that just makes sense, not just the cheapest thing that's because it's cheap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then how does it meet your criteria? Like, how do you know it's going to meet your, I'm not going to buy something and
I don't know if there's going to be any problems with it. So,
well, it's not even that. It's just, it may not meet like what I want to buy. Like, say I want to buy something like, a multiplex, somewhere in the outskirts, let's say that's what I want to get right now. What are the chances of that actually coming up?
Out of 170, very low.
Out of all the properties in Ontario?
In Ontario,
Yeah. In the GTA.
Okay, and what about all the people who are going through a power of sale? So,
they're probably not watching this.
Before that, I mean. If they're
worried about their going through a power sale because they can't meet their financial obligations because our price point got ripped out from underneath us. Yes, I mean because the interest rates just went through the roof and they can't meet their financial obligations now. It's a tough situation. I mean, there's multiple things you could do. You could talk to your lender first of all to see if they can help you with getting some financing terms, better financing terms. There's this new mortgage charter thing that came out with I can't have interest on interest. That might help a little bit. Or, you can always get secondary financing for somebody, get a private loan, get a line of credit, talk to somebody. Just don't be afraid and talk to somebody. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Because there's situations where it's a win-win for everybody. They might bail you out, and who knows? Who knows what happens? So, yeah, it's very tough. I know it's a weird thing, and it's easy to just cower up and kind of like.
It sounds easy to just hold on and just wait it out. Almost.
But when you're going through it, it's tough. Like I had somebody, I've heard of situations where people lose their lives for that, right? Like they just go, you know what I mean? So that's horrible. And the stress that takes and the toll on their body, it's not a pretty situation. So if you're going through it, like there's help out there. You just got to look for it. You just got to go ask for it.
Okay. Yeah. That's all the questions I had. So just to wrap things up here then, or just to end it off here, do you want to go with the outro?
No, you do. Well, anyway, I just want to say thanks for watching, everybody. If you like our content, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and catch you soon. And if you have any questions, by the way, there's a little link in the bottom for all the channels just to book a 15-minute call with us, and let's go from there.
Add it up.
Thanks for sticking out to the very end. I hope you got some value out of this. Do me a favor, please press like and subscribe. But more than anything, leave me some feedback so we know what to produce for you going forward. Thanks again.